Gabriel? You looking for the bollocks box? Yes. It's right there. Underneath the colorful one with the cat. Thank you. I've got to go. Gabe. Hannah Crana.
Hannah Crana.
Yeah, Dracula Drive, the old urban legend.
I've heard of her.
Go there. You'll find what you're looking for.
See you around.
Hi, welcome to the Motion Picture Notion. I'm your host, Gabriel Burton. This is a special video today because I'm going to be talking about a film trilogy that I have personally worked on. Film trilogy. But first, introduction to the video. This just came in the mail today. The Phantasm comic book, which will be added to my Phantasm shrine. It is signed by Don Coscarelli with the certificate of authenticity as required in the state of California. The comic is actually, I mean, story-wise is really good. It has Rocky in it from Phantasm 3, and I don't really much care for the fact that they kind of, I don't know if it was deliberate, but they were definitely at least indirectly ripping off Michonne from The Walking Dead, because Rocky has like crazy dreads and she carries around a katana. Correction, I actually looked it up. And if anything, Michonne from The Walking Dead ripped off the concept of Rocky from the Phantasm comic book. It seems a little bit too coincidental, but Michonne didn't appear until Walking Dead issue 19 in 2005. And if the date on the inside of the Phantasm comic book is correct, that came out in 2002. So, And honestly, the illustrations aren't that great, but the story is really cool. And I'm wondering what the hell happened to issue number 2. It's actually a pretty solid idea. It takes place after Phantasm Oblivion. I mean, I suppose it could take place within the universe as we know it from Phantasm Ravager, but it's really kind of a side story. It's like Phantasm 5 before Phantasm 5. So it's cool. I wish they had done another issue because, again, story-wise, it's really cool. I also found it fascinating that the adult Mike in the comic book, they were clearly like modeling after James LeGros from Phantasm 2. It doesn't really surprise me because he was like a more epic Mike than a Michael Baldwin. So I get that. It was a lot of interesting choices in the comic book, but definitely interesting. If I ever meet Don Coscarelli again, I gotta ask him what the hell's up with issue 2. When's that coming out? Could we at least get a, screenplay for the damn thing or something? I don't know, anything. Anyways, back in the year 2002, when I was 16 years old, I had this old-ass video camera. It's like probably like mid-80s video camera. It was relatively small. It had a wire connected to a miniature VCR, like full up VCR that I would wear on a strap. And I would pop a regular size VHS tape in there and I would go around filming it. Now, mind you, a lot of people were using like VHS-Cs and stuff like that, but it was also like around the time when they started using mini DVs. So there was like way, way, way higher video quality for 2002 that I didn't utilize. But in retrospect, I like the fact that I used that old camcorder because it gave my film, my video really, Hallows Eve. I drew that design back in 2002. It was actually originally in a VHS cover, those like foldable like plastic VHS covers. I had like 3 of them from Video Update, and I had designed like 3 different covers for a trilogy. Well, we filmed this movie and it was like a cheap zombie flick, and the sound quality on this camera is absolute garbage. We would take like, what was it, 2 years later, we took, digital editing where we learned how to use like iMovie and Final Cut Pro and stuff like that. This predated that. This was a video that a bunch of goofy kids filmed. It had glitches, the audio was terrible. It was like a cheap ass zombie movie. It contradicted itself. It didn't make sense. I had a basic idea of where I wanted it to go, but we kind of like, we would make exceptions, like, so-and-so couldn't show up to film. My buddy Carlos was, dating this girl at the time, and he was not there for a lot of it, so we had to kind of build it around him. So we gave him this kind of like dark backstory where he was possessed by this like demon, and that's why he would only pop up here or there. It was interesting because it kind of like mirrored our lives in an interesting way. We have since done a 10th year kind of like redux of it where we cut, it's an hour and 16 minutes long, the full director's cut. We managed to cut it down to less than an hour, editing a lot of the glitches and having it kind of move along, because the full director's cut is really just quite tedious, especially given the fact that you can't really hear much. In 2022, I would like to do a digitally remastered version, and my hope would be same video quality and stuff, cut it down so it's not quite as glitchy, add beginning and end credits, but I also want to get a lot of the people together who were in the movie to kind of overdub it and maybe give it like a slight tweak so it makes a little bit more sense. I mean, the result is still going to be sophomoric and crappy, but what the effect I'm hoping to achieve, especially with like the dubbing, would be like an old, like, 1970s or 80s, like Lucio Fulci or like, shitty Italian overdubbed zombie movie. Like, that would be what I would really hope to get from this. 10 years later, we did Hallows' Eve 2. Hallows' Eve 2, it was definitely an improvement over the original in that we actually gave it a plot and we built around it. It had a little bit more humor and personality. There's this character, Gabriel, from the first one who we explain like how he came to be where he is a little bit and how he's able to kind of do the things that he can do. There's an idea that I have in it. I've taken great influence from the Phantasm movies. The whole idea of the dimension forks in the Phantasm movies where you can kind of go like, who knows, in the space-time continuum via these dimension forks they have set up. There's this concept of the universal doorways, which is, it's kind of a ripoff, honestly. But the idea is that, if you step into the darkness and you don't see the road ahead of you, there's no guarantee that something familiar might be on the other side. And there are certain people who can kind of like align their minds with the universe to envision something and appear somewhere else, or some other time. So I explained that a little bit more in the second one, and, we had like a really cheesy ass werewolf mask for the werewolf. There was a director's cut to both versions of the first and second film because, not for nothing, I do go a little bit too far sometimes. I need to be like reined in. Hallows' Eve 2 has like end credits, and it leaves off on a total cliffhanger. When I did the original Hallows' Eve, it was essentially, the trilogy was like 3 parts that I filmed. I filmed 1 half-hour part that was Hallows' Eve, 25-minute part, which was Hallows' Eve 2. The middle part is probably the most entertaining part of the movie. And then I did Hallows' Eve 3, which was a 15-minute video. And it ends on such a bleak note, I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna do this because to hell with it, And then one day I'm sitting down and I'm sort of like, you know what? If I took the 3 of these movies and I put them together, I would have a feature-length film. And so I did. And I was kind of like, well, it ends so bleak. Now I can go with the whole trilogy idea, but I'll expand from there. And funnily enough, in Hallows' Eve 2, the exact ideas that I had for it in junior year of high school, I followed them pretty much to the T, including the ending, the mythology, the creatures in it and stuff like that. There's this band called Edge some sort of like underground prog rock group, like nobody's ever heard of them, and they had this like really kind of cool, like it's like almost like Halloween or Phantasm sort of like prog rock music that I had the idea way back in high school to put in the movie, and 10 years later I actually put it in the movie. I wasn't expecting it to take 10 years, not for nothing. There were like, I want to say like at least 8 attempts at either like a remake or a sequel prior to that, but finally it just got down to the wire, and I was like, you know what it was? I was in a dark part of my life, and I was like, no, you know what, man? Like, I'm gonna do Hallows' Eve 2. And now that we did Hallows' Eve 2, we have to do a third one, okay? And it's 2020 right now. I am currently working on a script, and I want it to be like every 10 years. I want to do Hallows' Eve 3. And as long as we finish the trilogy, I'm fine with that. I do have an idea for a fourth one, and I was thinking like every 10 years. It'd be a lot of fun just to see like where we go with this crazy idea. But if we get the third one done, there doesn't have to be another one. It was always ever meant to be a trilogy, and that's all I want to finish. And I already have a design for the cover for Hallows' Eve 3, Summer's End. And I have a really cool idea about this creature that you never actually see in the first Hallows' Eve, but it's what sets in motion a lot of the things that start to happen. And he takes the scene as the main villain. His name is Sam Hain, spelled the same as Samhain, Halloween. Essentially, it's going to wrap up a lot of things for a lot of characters. There's one character who, at the end of Hallows' Eve 2, is left off. He's just gotten bitten by a werewolf, and you don't know what's happening with him. There's another character that's died. There's a character that you haven't seen since the first Hallows' Eve who comes back at the end of the second one different. And you don't know what his story is. And I have like this perfect idea of how I want to end it. It's kind of like a lower, I'm going to bring it back to the beginning a little bit. I'm going to make it a little bit darker than the second one, and I'm going to make it obviously a better quality than either the first or second. But the fact that we've been at this for almost 20 years now is just like so cool. But I am also kind of feeling like that pressure, you know. It's sort of like, no, dude, like you got to get this done. You have to do Hallows' Eve 3. So working on the screenplay now. Next year, I want to do like kind of like scouting and like supply runs and stuff like that, like have an idea to do some like rehearsals and shit, and then by the end of the summer, early autumn next year, I want to start filming it, and I want to have it wrapped by like early the following year, and then just start doing the editing. So here's hoping that I actually stick with it.
That's all she wrote.